What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gojo with Mike Golic Jr. That is me. With me, as always, super producer Brandon Newman, Isaiah out in Vegas, and my father, Mike Golic Sr. And want to apologize up front because I realized we didn't give people much of a heads up yesterday that we were going to be off on Monday. As Dad, you and I were out in Cincinnati, Ohio, getting to play in a charity golf tournament. Our good friends, Jordan and Shay Cornette, their foundation, the Joel Cornette Foundation, which helps raise money and awareness for sudden cardiac arrest in athletes, heart disease, and monitoring and trying to really help a cause that's near and dear to them. Joel Cornette, Jordan's brother, who passed away, unfortunately, very suddenly from that. The event's done a great job raising money and awareness. They bring together some of our favorite people. We had an absolutely fantastic time with them, but that also meant we didn't do the show yesterday, and we just decided to tell everybody now, so my bad.
Yeah, that's on you. I'm putting that on you, okay, since your name's on the show, so that's your fault. But that's okay. It won't be the first or last time I blame you for something. But, yeah, it was a great event, really nice. I ended up driving back right to it. I'm back in South Bend. You're still out there in Cincinnati in a hotel there, and it was a lot of fun. I didn't golf as well as I'd like to. I heard you were hitting the ball extremely well. And so one of these, so many people have played in these scramble charity events. You had on your team a former golfer, college golfer. I mean, how unfair is that? Because you don't use handicaps in these things. So extremely unfair. I didn't stay because I did have to leave. Did you guys place in this thing?
We didn't. They only gave out winners for second and first place in this, and so we didn't take either of those spots. Eric Wood, former Buffalo Bills center, friend of the podcast, his team, which was the defending champions, took second, and Brady Quinn's team, because Brady Quinn can't have enough things in life, because enough good things haven't happened to Brady Quinn, because he doesn't walk around every day looking like the image of what I would like to see of myself in my head. So yeah, Brady's team won that stuff. We were somewhere in the distance after that. But it was like wild. So the guy in my group played college golf at Akron. He was the best golfer I've ever personally played with. Like, Dad, you know, whenever you see an athlete do something in a sport, whether it's a quarterback with a great release and a great throw, or a sprinter who just seems like they have it all put together, seeing something look the way it's supposed to and look pretty every time and go where he wanted every time was one of the more alarming, impressive things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it just shows you how bad his teammates were, which included you, that you had a guy that was that good and you guys couldn't place. I mean, seriously, did you guys not help him at all? His legs must be extremely tired from carrying you guys.
They have to be. The most embarrassing part and the most really like emasculating part was there were a couple holes. I actually played better than I normally played. And there were a few holes where I piped a couple of drives, really put him out there, and I would hit right before him in the order off the tee. And every time I would do it, I would mentally have to prepare myself to pick up my ball 100 yards short of wherever he was going to put his, even though it was my best shot probably of the last summer of playing golf. And for him, it was quite literally a slow Monday.
It's demoralizing. I mean, when you get with somebody who knows how to play golf, and we'd like to be better. We don't, but again, we're 99% of the population. We go of the golfers. We all golf. We want to be better at golf. Sometimes we think we're better than we are, and then we get humbled back into just how bad we are. When this guy, because I met him, he's like half your size, and it's that just because we were in a sport where it's our position. Sometimes size mattered. Okay. You could be, an incredible 200-pounder, but if you're going up against over 300-pounders, you're probably not going to win a whole lot. So this is a tough thing to swallow, that we're bigger, so we think bigger can be better, and you hit the ball a ton, and a guy half your size outdrives you or out-hits you. It is such a humbling sport.
Yeah, it was like so when I was in college, one of my first real big games of playing time was against Wake Forest, and they had a nose tackle named Nikita Whitlock. He ended up going on and playing fullback and linebacker in the NFL. Nikita was like 6'1", 6 foot maybe, and like 250 pounds and would just move around like an ant at nose in the middle of Wake Forest defense. And it was one of those things where he had a wrestling background. He was a very technically sound guy. He had all these things at his disposal except size. And so it was that similar feeling of helplessness to where you're holding on for dear life against someone who size-wise should have no earthly business being up in your grill like this.
Well, there you go. You get to relive it somehow, some way from your past. So you'll put that aside. Yeah. You guys underachieved. I'll say that, to have basically a pro golfer with you, and you guys did not place. But as you mentioned, it was all for a good cause and no harm, no foul. I guess unlike the U.S. women's team, where they were a ball hitting a post away from being the top seed, the best team in the world, from going home in the first round. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, we got a great show today. Download, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. We will get to Jim Irsay's wild boy tweeting from over the weekend, Sean Payton and Aaron Rodgers' continued public war of words. But man, so I didn't get up, spoiler alert, for this 3 a.m. Eastern showing of the U.S. women's national team against Portugal. The U.S., which is the number one ranked team in the world, Portugal, I believe 21st, was an overwhelming favorite. It was our last game of group play, and so I thought, all right, we'll take care of business. I'll get up and see some good highlights. And instead, I get up, and the first thing I see is a tweet from the U.S. women's national team account that says, "Bless that post." And I'm like, all right, I haven't seen any tweets about goals or anything like this. If this is what we've been reduced to, I've got some real worries. Dad, you and Mom actually woke up and managed to catch the last 10 minutes of this. And it sounds pretty harrowing for a team that was on the verge of getting knocked out in the group stage for the first time in World Cup history.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in their time in the World Cup that they've only had one win in group play. They had the one win and the two ties. Netherlands, who won the group, and the U.S., which is now the runner-up and would have been out had that goal gone in. Portugal actually played better. Portugal was actually the better team on the pitch for this match. And this shot came because a lot of play, at least what I was seeing later on, was down on the Portugal end. But they got it down on our end, and oh, my God. I mean, a clear shot. Our goalie jumped to her left, and the ball kind of went under her arms and hit the friggin' post. I mean, square on the post and went straight back. And that probably there was 8 minutes of extra time. It was probably about 3 or 4 minutes into extra time, I think, in that area that happened. And that would have been it. I thought we had a couple chances on the other end in extra time to put one in, and we're not able to do it. And as Alex Morgan said after, we had ample opportunity to put the ball in the back of the net, and we didn't do it. They just didn't. They were just off. And that's the one question we had about this team, was not the individual that was out there, but the newcomers to this World Cup team and the fact of playing together now on that stage. And let's be honest, they have not looked like the number one team in the world, right? They beat Vietnam 3-0, but Vietnam can't score a goal. Netherlands just beat Vietnam 7-0. Then they tie Netherlands and now tie Portugal. So they have not looked like the number one team. So you could say on the side, I'm sure they'll look at the film and go over it and understand they need to play better. But on the positive side, it's like advanced. You know what? You're moving on. You can wipe away that game. You can move on to the next game, which is probably going to be Sweden, which is going to be extremely tough in the knockout round and could be sent home. They're going to have to play better. They just, as we said, they're the number one ranked team. They're the best team in the world, but there's a lot of new pieces to it, and they're not playing like it right now, but they're still in the tournament, and that's all that matters. They get to go back out for another game, and let's see if they can play more like the team we expected to see out there.
Yeah, it's gotten so bad. You are now getting, and Carly Lloyd is the face of this, former members of the U.S. women's national team who have turned broadcasters, who are pretty critical of the team's spirit, talking about their really energy to go out there and perform at that high level for the people that had come before that. Andonovsky, the coach of the U.S. women's national team, had to kind of address those comments in the post game. He was already dealing with people coming after him after the Netherlands game, where he only subbed once in 90 minutes, and everyone was wondering what the hell was going on. So this is legitimate on-field adversity for the U.S. women's national team at a juncture where we're just not used to it. Like, I don't feel like we've got a lot of reps as a U.S. women's soccer watching public of watching them struggle this early in a tournament. We're used to maybe seeing it in the later rounds, usually in the final or something like that. But Dad, your point is we've been saying, all right, bunch of new parts, but we've still got Alex Morgan, some of the faces that we've been used to on the front lines of this team that were going to be able to help us. Rose Lavelle gets a second yellow card in this game, so she's not going to be available to us in the next round, which sucks. All of these things that we were trying to count on as the bridge program to these young people stepping up and counting on it to just happen in group play because this is where we usually kick people's asses. In coming together like that, it's actually got me a little worried right now. I don't know how I would be able to process the idea of us getting knocked out potentially in the first opportunity for it to happen.
I'm sure there's many like us that are fans, especially the casual fans, that where the expectation is ho-hum through this round and the next round, and as you move further, right, then it gets a little tougher, but it's gotten tough now. So we're all wondering, and forget about us wondering, how are they doing, right? Because, as we said, new pieces, younger pieces out there on this team. So how is their psyche? Luckily, they have some older players to hopefully settle them down. Again, this was a game where the first half we actually had controlled the possession a little bit, had some opportunities, but all of a sudden couldn't put anything away. And there you are coming to the end of the game, trying to hold on for dear life. So not only a physical test, but there's a big mental test coming up.
And it's weird. That seems like it's been the read coming off the last three games, is a lot of opportunities to score goals that we just can't score. All right, excited for this one. The NFL has been very giving of drama early in the season so far, and that continued with Aaron Rodgers firing back over the weekend after Sean Payton, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, took some shots at his guy Nathaniel Hackett for the job that he did in Denver last year, even sent a few strays just in general to the Jets organization as well that Rob Saleh had to address. So Aaron Rodgers sat down with Peter Schrager at training camp and cut this little bit of a diss track. Take a listen.
Those comments were very surprising. For a coach to do that to another coach. My love for Hack goes deep. You know, we had some great years together in Green Bay, kept in touch. Love him and his family. He's an incredible family man, incredible dad. And on the field, you know, he's arguably my favorite coach I've ever had in the NFL. Just his approach to it, how he makes it fun, how he cares about the guys. Just how he goes about his business with respect, with leadership, with honesty, with integrity. And it made me feel bad that someone who's accomplished a lot in the league is that insecure that they have to take another man down to set themselves up for some sort of easy fall if it doesn't go well for that team this year. I thought it was way out of line and inappropriate, and I think he needs to keep my coach's names out of his mouth.
I say it felt like we were back at the Oscars for a second here. This is nice, Dad. I looked at this, and obviously we talked about the initial comments last week, but I did find myself, as polarizing as Aaron Rodgers has certainly been, like, yeah, no, the Aaron's kind of getting it right here. This is the exact response I think you'd want to see from a quarterback going out here in defense of his coach, which usually it's the other way around, right? Usually in organizations, coaches kind of try to shield their players from any of the stuff that comes down there. But Aaron Rodgers is now the face of this franchise, and someone with that kind of power and clearly that kind of relationship with Nathaniel Hackett probably felt like it was going to be in his interest and really his job in some ways to come forward and kind of set the tone here.
Well, that's what you do. You protect your teammates. Robert Saleh did the same thing, and then Aaron Rodgers just did it. Listen, go back again. We discussed this last week. I was shocked that Sean Payton did it. I think it was completely inappropriate. I don't understand why he did it. And then even Sean Payton came out and said 40 minutes after he did it, he regretted doing it. You know, that he got ahead of himself. He got, you know, a little too caught up in the emotion of it, whatever the reason was, whether that's BS and he did it for a particular reason to back Russell Wilson, I don't know. But regardless, it was not, in my opinion, again, not the right thing to do. I know there are some out there that didn't have a problem with it, and that's fine. I am not a fan of that stuff at all. I wasn't sure how far Aaron Rodgers was going to go because he started out kind of political about it and then got into how much he loves Hackett, right? And then probably while he was talking about Hackett, we all do this, you have to continue on about the other thing. You're formulating in your head where you're going to go, right? And then he went. Then he went. It was out of line. It was inappropriate. I did not expect the Will Smith line, but I thought that was, if he was going to go down that road, I thought it was a nice ending. I thought it was a very nice ending to finish that way. And again, that's what I expect a teammate to do. And like he did and like Saleh did, because I believe Nathaniel Hackett is supposed to talk today. And I do not expect anything from him. I expect to basically, I think his thought process is going to be, my head coach stuck up for me. My quarterback stuck up for me. There's no reason to continue to go down the road here. So I think he is going to be way above everything and not trash Sean Payton, not say anything about it. I think he'll basically say, listen, my quarterback and my head coach, they said it. I have nothing more to say. We'll be interested to see where he will go because, listen, we all know what happened. He was a first-time head coach last year, and it went horribly. Sean Payton was not wrong about that. Just Sean Payton's delivery of it publicly was not the thing to do. So I don't expect Nathaniel Hackett to come out swinging at all when he talks.
No, I guess that is the biggest thing, is it was probably smart to let Aaron lead dog with this because Aaron's got the resume that can go toe-to-toe with Sean's, and Nate Hackett does not. Like, that is, and even Sean Payton saying he got a bit ahead of himself and I had my Fox hat on when I should have had my coaching hat on. It's like, well, you clearly said what you think. And quite honestly, you clearly said what a bunch of other people to some extent have thought, and they've said it in varying ways, that maybe Russell Wilson still does have plenty left in the tank just because that situation seemed very mismanaged last year. But like you said, Nate Hackett's going to have to come out there and basically, I think, be the good company man, go and try and keep this pretty ho-hum because, Dad, he's got to do a lot of career resurrection this season, and weirdly has a lot of pressure on him. Like, Aaron Rodgers obviously leads that charge with what's going on in New York, but Aaron Rodgers is a made man, like we've talked about. The reason he can come out and say this stuff and it registers in this way is because, like Sean Payton, he is a future Hall of Famer. He is a guy with those kind of credentials. And if things go south in New York, no doubt Aaron Rodgers is going to lead the blame train on that, but it's also going to be people looking at Nathaniel Hackett going, okay, they got rid of Mike LaFleur. They made him the scapegoat for last year's offense. They brought in the guy that Aaron likes, and if this thing doesn't look good, then all of a sudden you've now got a couple of years where Nathaniel Hackett's connected to an all-time great quarterback potentially playing a lot worse than we've used to seeing.
Yeah, I think he'll be more comfortable because he's worked with Aaron before. They've had some success before. So I do think things will be okay there. And we have seen guys that have been successful as coordinators not be successful as head coaches. One of the greats of all time that was a coordinator for me, and Bud Carson, was a short-time coach of the Browns. And basically in conversations I had with him before he had passed away was, he was a better coordinator, right? Even Bill Belichick, listen, he was there for a bit with the Browns, right? But he made his hay with another team. It wasn't with the Browns. So sometimes, maybe it'll happen again for Nathaniel Hackett. Maybe it won't. We've seen coordinators become coaches and go back to coordinators and get a shot as a head coach again. But I do think his comfort level will be a lot better knowing he's had success with Aaron before. They have some good weapons there. To me, this is we should be done talking about it. And the more important thing is, can they get Dalvin Cook? That's a huge piece to that offense. If they can get Dalvin Cook while Breece Hall is coming back from that knee injury, that to me is the biggest story, to try and land him and not let him end up in Miami.
Yep, this is a nice little surprise gem, a little barb thrown back, and we'll get back to the football very soon on their front, although I couldn't help myself from thinking as he was waxing poetic about Nathaniel Hackett in the middle of that. I was like, has Nathaniel Hackett dropped acid with Aaron Rodgers? Is that why he loves him so much? Dad, there are very few things that I have been as excited to talk about as the Jim Irsay tweet from over this weekend. Because we've kind of exhausted a lot of my interest in the running backs conversation overall, right? The value stuff. We've all gone back and forth. We've all done the thing for a while. We all feel bad for these guys. Like, it's an unenviable situation relative to the NFL market because of how things have changed. But it just felt like we had gotten stagnant on this. And then Big Jim felt like firing up the Twitter machine. So what had happened was, apparently, Jonathan Taylor had gone in a few days ago and requested a trade from the Indianapolis Colts and was told no last week. That was before everything became public. Jonathan Taylor and his representation released that desire to get traded publicly. And Jim Irsay, who, remember, coming off of all of the running back tweets and the things that were going on online, had talked about how he felt like it was inappropriate for people to be talking about the collective bargaining agreement that they worked so hard on. He took what seemed to be clear shot at Jonathan Taylor's agent, saying that some agents are giving their clients advice in bad faith, and all of these things that culminated in this, where Dad Jim Irsay ends up going on Twitter after we see the reports of Jonathan Taylor requesting a trade from the Indianapolis Colts and says the following: "If I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, no one is going to miss us. The league goes on. We know that. The National Football League rolls on. It doesn't matter who comes and who goes. It's a privilege to be a part of it." That tweet, was from James Boyd quoting Jim Irsay. Dad, did you have nihilist Jim Irsay on your bingo card for the running back saga continuing to unfold as we approach August?
Much like a lot of, the things that Sean Payton had said about Hackett and the coaching job was true, but you just don't say it. This is also 100% true. It is true. The league moves on, man. No one person is the league. No one's changing the league. The players are owners. Now, not to say that hasn't happened in the past with things, but generally he's right. But again, it's something you probably don't say, right? I mean, especially coming off the tweet that he had about the CBA, and then he said it had nothing to do with Jonathan Taylor when it absolutely had something to do with Jonathan Taylor. So this is another one of the things that is correct. But it's another one of those things I would not have done public. But again, Irsay is a different cat. And we have seen some tweets and some actions out of him that have been somewhat questionable in the past. He's had his issues. So I guess it shouldn't be too surprising that he's done that. So, we'll see. He said they're not trading Jonathan Taylor. He said they are not trading him. So, again, Taylor has his choice. Remember, he came into camp saying his back hurt because everybody talks about there's the holdouts and then there's the hold-ins where you go in so you don't get fined if you're under contract, but then you have a mysterious injury where you can't really play, but you're still getting paid. And there was a battle on that injury, whether it was legit or not.
Well, yeah, there was ESPN's Colts reporter, whose name's escaping me right now, reported that, and then Jonathan Taylor quote tweeted it and quickly said, "I've got no back soreness. I never reported any back soreness. Not sure who your sources are." So Jonathan Taylor himself is now having to go to war with his own organization on this front because they are clearly trying to find a way to subvert it on that side. That got more complicated from them when their backup Zach Moss broke his arm in camp over this weekend also. So now, as I saw from Andrew Siciliano over at the NFL Network, he said, per NFL research, the only player on the Indianapolis Colts current roster who is healthy and on the field with more than 100 career NFL carries is backup quarterback Gardner Minshew. So, Dad, this is an example of, we talked about different situations require different thought process with this running back stuff. Saquon Barkley, you could have argued in New York because of the trajectory their offense is on. Second year with Brian Daboll as the head coach. Daniel Jones, who you want to continue to surround with good pieces so his development stays on trend. You could argue with Jonathan Taylor and the Colts, a team who traditionally extends guys early. So Jonathan Taylor eligible because he's completed his third season in the NFL. He's been highly productive for them, and they're getting ready to break in a new head coach whose offense relies heavily on a ground game that wants to involve potentially their rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson. All of these things would benefit from some stability at this running back spot where, like we just illustrated, you don't have a ton of depth right now behind Jonathan Taylor, who's been your workhorse. And so this is another one of those spots where this, I think even a couple of years ago, you could have inked something similar to the Derrick Henry deal that we last saw him sign in Tennessee that gets you a little bit of a bump in pay for a guy while you've got a quarterback on a rookie deal and really not a lot of other weapons to speak of in Indianapolis. And then take care of him through that portion where you're going to need him to really set the floor of your offense instead of, in my opinion here, needlessly pissing this guy off right before the start of the season and creating this largely because your owner can't help himself and keeps launching either tweets or bad thoughts into the universe.
Yeah, this is a team that's tried to live by the kind of get that try and get lightning in a bottle with a veteran quarterback for the last few years. Ever since, Andrew Luck has left, it's been a mess at the quarterback position. But the last few years, they've tried to do one-hit wonders, hoping they would hit more than 1 year, and they haven't. So you had Jonathan Taylor a couple of years, which was a great addition to how well he was running. And unfortunately, those veteran passers never really worked out. Well, now you have a rookie in Anthony Richardson who, has a big learning curve. And we'll see how it goes with that. It's just about seeing reps over and over at this level. So yes, you would really like the stability of a running game this year more than the other. But that O-line needs to get better. They have to come back from a bad year last year. And especially if you have that rookie quarterback, you need to rely on something else. And you're seeing running back after running back not be available for. Let's see what gets worked out, if anything, with Jonathan Taylor. But this running back position has been living horribly the last couple of years. So I don't know how this one is going to end up seeing them on the field, like a Saquon Barkley, not drawing that line in the sand saying, I'm not stepping back on the field till I get a new deal. I just don't think that's a win for these guys either.
No, I don't think it is, but I think the mistake here ends up being it seems like Jim Irsay is kind of rubbing their nose in it. And I get this is probably more about his agent and the dealings there and what he feels like are going on. But if you're Jim Irsay, you got to kind of know you need to bow out of this. Like, I can't imagine Shane Steichen or Ryan Pace are really happy about having to deal with all of this as a fallout, because your owner just can't help himself online right now. Like, that's, I guess the thing at the end of all this is you can be right and not do it in such a way that's going to go out here and insult this person that's a really important part of your process, even if you don't think, based on the system around you, you need to change anything.
So, and a lot of times in these situations, you see guys off their rookie deals. You see them do it when they're coming up to the last year. And remember, Jonathan Taylor was a second-round pick, so that's a 4-year deal. So his last year in his rookie deal is coming up this year. So this would be the year you would think you would extend. But if they don't do it, you already see how this is going, right? You see him not getting a new deal, and then after this year, they tag him, right? And they see where it goes from here. So it's different, like a Nick Bosa, who is holding out now, but he's going into his 5th year. He was a first-round pick, so there's that 5th-year option. They said last season they were going to wait till this offseason or camp to get it done, and all he did was win Defensive Player of the Year and have 18.5 sacks. He's going to be the highest-paid defensive player in the league. It's his turn for that, and they'll probably get it done. The 49ers are known for getting it done right before camp or when camp has started. But he is going into what would be his last year, just like Taylor is with his 4th year. So you would think this would be the time to get it done. But I think this is just another, like Danielle Hunter. They do the 1-year thing in the Vikings. That's just how you can tell players nowadays. He requests a trade. You see players scrubbing their team name and team logo from all their Instagram. And Danielle Hunter said, I want to be traded. Next thing you know, he signs a 1-year deal that could be worth $20 million. And he says, I want my whole career to be with the Vikings. I mean, again, that's what negotiation is. That's what money is for the running backs, man. It just doesn't seem to be hitting, because I would be interested if they are going to offer Jonathan Taylor. Is it something he would take? Is it something where the reality to these agents who can relay it to their players is like, gang, it's not getting better anytime soon. So I wonder if Saquon Barkley regrets not taking the deal that would have given him 2 years of guaranteed, which was right around what the franchise tag would have been. It would have been like $22 million guaranteed. So you just wonder if, okay, I'm probably not going to change the way this is going, so I need to grab my money when I can grab it.
Yeah, and to that point, it sounds like the Colts haven't offered him anything yet. Like, there has been no substantive discussion on this front, which, like you said, message sent, message received, but there has been some make goods on the other side of this, and I do wonder, much like we saw, like, there were those minor concessions that were put in there to try and make Saquon Barkley felt like he had a little bit of a win in this. I wonder if there's anything that the Colts will try at this juncture, because really, Dad, I think the thing that rubbed me the wrong way, because we're right about the realities of the situation of this, it's the continued weaponized idea of privilege that Jim Irsay threw out there. Like, oh, it's a privilege to this league and you should be grateful to be here. Like, it's one thing for Jim Irsay to say that, who is a guy who inherited his place in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor was an All-American grinding his body at Wisconsin. He's come into the league and done nothing but do the same for the Indianapolis Colts. Like, yes, it is a privilege. We hear plenty of players say that all the time. Dad, you as someone who spent 9 years in that league, it said no one's bigger than the league by and large. There is that idea of, hey, it's an honor to be amongst this group of people. But y'all work your asses off to do that. And so this idea that you should just be happy to be there and that should be the basis for you accepting less or not fighting for more and all of this, that's the part that's ridiculous and quite frankly insulting to me here on behalf of Jonathan Taylor.
It's completely ridiculous. You are right. And while it is a privilege, you still have to bust your ass and earn your position. Earn your spot to be one of the 1,800 plus guys that play in the league each year. So nothing's given. So that does have to be earned. So I agree with you that these guys are fighting for it. And just like, because the thing that's the silliest thing I read about or hear about is, oh, you're making way more than the average American make. We get it. We know it. But that doesn't mean anything in this conversation. It's about market. So just pick your place of work and put yourself in a similar situation where others in your workplace are getting paid way more than you, and you're basically doing, contributing as much to the team. But for whatever reason, in this case with the running backs, you've been devalued in what you do. So you're going to fight for what you think is right for your position. That's what you do in business. You don't just say, I'm making a lot compared. So I'm good with that. Now, some people may do that, and that's fine. But for the most part, you're going to fight for your market value. And the shame right now is the market value for the running backs is what it is. And I'll continue to say, I don't know what the answer is to this. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to get better. And I think reality for a Saquon Barkley and others may set in to say, well, it's not going to do me any good to hold out. And I'm going to pass up on the fact that I could make $11 million. Because when people had said Saquon Barkley, well, the Giants won, Saquon Barkley lost. He got nothing. No, he won to the tune of making $11 million to play football this year. And while that's under the market value, or it's not, it's what the market value is now, but under what other positions have gotten as their value is going up and the running backs is going down, there's then the clear reality of, all right, it ain't happening. I'm not going to get more right now. So do I go out and strap it on and make my $10, $11 million, which I ain't going to make up if I sit out the entire year?
Dad, speaking of making up lost funds here, I did want to get to this before we finished up, just because we've, again, spun the wheel on the running back thing for so long. We didn't get to talk about at the end of last week what's going on in college football right now with the Pac-12. I fought this idea for a long time, but after Colorado's departure to the Big 12 was announced, and now we're seeing, I believe today, Arizona has set a Board of Regents meeting that was previously unscheduled to discuss a lot of this, and the Arizona Board of Regents, I believe, represents Arizona, Arizona State, and Northern Arizona as a whole here, as we've seen reports from plenty of people. I think Brett McMurphy was one of them, that as the Big 12 looks to continue expanding, it would be eyeing Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah potentially, if not then some group of 5 teams like UConn and others to try and make that move. Dad, do you think we have seen the last of the Pac-12 after this move from Colorado started things off?
Oh, I absolutely do, because they're not getting a major deal. I know it's supposed to be announced, I think, within the next 48 hours. It's not going to be some great deal. You look at the Big 12 now, they're guaranteeing teams a little over $31 million per team to come in when they split the revenue. And it's not near the Big 10 and the SEC, which are talking about basically $50 million per team, but it's next in line. It's a nice amount that could get you to go there, right? To say, okay, this is the conference we need to get to, and there's going to be a race to it, right? That you have to have the foresight to say, okay, where is this going to go? Do I try and stay and stay with the Pac-12, maybe rebuild the Pac-12, or for the good of our school, do somewhere where we're going to make almost $32 million a year because we don't know where our conference is going? It's kind of like there's the team player of the conference, and then there's the individual school saying, okay, I need to do what's right for my school. Because remember when the Big 10 and the Pac-12 had their little agreement, their little handshake and pat on the back?
Oh, the alliance.
How far did that go? Yeah, how far did that go? How much do they probably don't even want to discuss that or have anybody anymore, because we all saw through it. It's like as soon as something good was for one, they were going to dump the other. And that's what's going to happen. Did you see the head coach from Oregon, Lanning, what he said about the Colorado move? Oh, that was phenomenal. I don't have it directly in front of me, but something like, yeah, I don't know what Colorado did. Name me the winning they've done, in this conference, or basically saying, what the hell have they done to be courted by the Big 12? And we know a lot of that is Deion Sanders, but we also know that team had a lot of turnover, and they're probably going to stink again this year. But the Big 12 was probably betting on the that Deion is going to bring this team along. We'll have to wait and see, because they've been a horrifically bad team.
But that's the thing, is I don't think that had anything to do. I mean, it had something to do. Deion has created some appeal for them right now, but this is just strength in numbers. Like, the Big 12 understands that if they're going to continue to exist in college football and in college athletics in general, they're going to need bodies. And right now, the Pac-12 seems to be struggling with a body count. It had its 2 most valuable properties, at least brand-wise, leave the conference for the Big 10, go and take all that TV money. And so what they have done in sitting on their hands and not announcing this TV deal and not getting those things done in a timely fashion to show their members, because that's what it sounds like was the straw that broke the camel's back, or in this case, the Buffalo's back for Colorado, was they kept expecting a TV deal to be delivered to them, and it didn't show up. And so the Big 12 had an enticing offer, and they took it, because the Big 12 and what they have been doing, Brett Yormark and company, their conference commissioner, have been on the aggressive since the jump. They've done a bunch of goofy stuff, like all the Big 12 halftime show things, collaborations with streetwear brands, all this weird stuff that looks like How Do You Do, Fellow Kids became a conference's identity. But they've also been aggressive in going out and adding teams since Texas and Oklahoma left. And that's continuing right now. And it's going to, I think, truly be, hey, we just need bodies around here to project stability to everybody else as we go forward. And so that's really the war the Pac-12 is fighting right now. And as we're getting ready to potentially see the Arizona schools jettisoned, as I'm sure if Oregon and Washington are smart, they're picking up the phone again and calling the folks at the Big Ten and seeing like, hey, are we interested in doing this right now? Because I could be free in 2024. I could make this happen for you. I could be a friend to you in 2024. It all seems like it's gotten to a place very quickly where, like you said, Colorado, the unlikely domino to fall because of how bad they have been in my lifetime, still is enough to move the needle because they saw an exit strategy and they took it, and might be the house of cards crumbling down now. All right, Dad, let's get to this, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to finish off everybody's day. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review. Leave us that 5-star rating. Tell us what's really good And Dad, before we get to that, we also want to make sure we remind everybody about our friends at Knockaround. And I told you guys, and this clearly must be a response to this, you got to start buying these knockarounds if the U.S. women are going to be able to help and win this World Cup. Because knockaround, in addition to being your go-to for high-quality polarized sunglasses that aren't going to break the bank for you, in addition to having released the first 9 teams of their MLB collection, great-looking shades that you can get to support your favorite MLB franchise, like the Seattle Mariners, like the Padres, like the Dodgers. They've also got the U.S. women's national team sunglasses that are awesome. They got a couple of different varietals, some two-tone in there. You get the color splash like you see on the uniform in there to support the team. And again, we've got to do our part because, again, this is not as easy as it's been in the past. So we got to pull out all the stops here, which is easy for you to do because knockaround sunglasses are starting at just $28 on knockaround.com. So again, don't be the person fussing around with other sunglasses, trying not to worry about breaking them in a bar with your match day fit. Go and get the goods. Make sure you're protected from the sun. Make sure you look good in the process. Dad, speaking of the process, let's get to this. The process for Notre Dame securing their new apparel deal is now over. The Irish were coming up on the final year of their deal with Under Armour and have decided to re-up. They have extended a new 10-year Under Armour contract that'll keep Notre Dame near the top of college sports with more than $10 million a year annually in cash and gear, according to Ross Dellinger over at Yahoo Sports. Dad, I know we had seen and wondered about the courtship for a number of different apparel brands. Part of me might have even been praying for the Jordan apparel deal to finally come through, but it seems like Notre Dame and Under Armour will continue to protect this house.
Richest college apparel deal that's ever been, 10 years for $100 million. They just finished their 10-year deal for about $90 million. And I think one of the reasons a lot of us thought Under Armour may not be in the mix was they've been struggling. They had dropped a few schools like UCLA and Cal. Boston College had left them for another apparel company. So we thought there had been some struggling going on there. But I know their quarterly earnings report had been up some percentages. And, you know, this seems to be Jack Swarbrick, the AD's kind of last big move, as he, remember, is going to retire probably in the beginning of next year. And Pete Bavacqua, formerly of NBC, is going to take over. This looks like it could be Jack's last major move for the sports programs at Notre Dame of signing this deal. Again, the richest deal in college apparel history. So 10 years again, $100 million. So you don't have to, I have a bunch of old Notre Dame Adidas stuff, which transferred into Under Armour stuff while you guys were here. And now at least it can stay. You know, it can keep that stuff and stay because it's still having the Under Armour logo. But I'm ready for some new designs. I'm ready for them to up the package.
Well, to that end, we did get the release of the Irish-wear green jerseys that they're going to rock for the Ohio State game this year. They also went with the Jerry Maguire spoof. We were part of the video release last year that did the Hangover spoof for the Vegas game. And this year, they went with the Jerry Maguire spoof there. They had Marcus Freeman playing Jerry Maguire saying, "Show me the green jerseys." It came out pretty good. And they went with green pants on the Kelly Green jerseys, Dad, that I am a huge fan of. The green top and bottom that's really going to pop at night at home for them.
Yeah, I love that too. Again, for the Ohio State game, I think it's going to be great. And I think, listen, they're 2 for 2 on jersey reveals. Again, last year we were fortunate enough to be part of the Hangover one. This one, Jerry Maguire. I mean, they did a great job, and it has over 1 million views. Again, if you haven't seen it, you know, whether you like Notre Dame a lot, and I know there's a lot of Notre Dame haters out there, you gotta be impressed with, again, what the execution of doing this and how they did it alongside a movie and Jerry Maguire. It was very, very well done.
I'm not going to read into too much the fact that we weren't called to do this one again. I'm going to assume we are still in good standing with the university, but I will just say concerned. We'll see what happens in year 3 if we manage to get the call back up for this after what I still believe was one of my best acting performances.
Mike, all I have to say is there was a football player in it with no shirt on, which is probably a good reason you and I would not have been in that, because there is not a scene that we would do unless there was a lot of zeros attached to take our shirts off to be on camera. Not going to happen.
We're at different places in our career. I would take my shirt off on camera for a lot less money than you at this point, but that's a story for another day, Dad. Let's get to that. Damar Hamlin made his return to full padded practice for the first time since his cardiac arrest against the Bengals back on January 2nd. Talked about him, his family, all being behind him in this, but Dad, for a guy that went through the most harrowing experience we've seen on the field in quite some time, to now be back and attempting that same thing at full speed again, has to be really nerve-wracking. I'd imagine for his teammates and everyone else involved who also lived through that event and watched him go through that.
And listen, it may never come happening again to him, but you don't know. That's the thing. We are all so used to elbows and wrists and ankles and knees. Man, the inside, the heart, I mean, we're just, we don't know that stuff. So you're right to not only on his side get over that, physical thing, but the mental part of it. I've always talked about coming back from an injury. Doctor, you're okay. All the surgeries I had, a doctor would say, you're fine. But then you have to go out there and let it rip, whether it's cutting on a knee, whether it's using whatever body part that was operated on or rebuilt or whatever. You have to go out there and let it rip. When physically a doctor says you can, but mentally you're still unsure. I can't even fathom this one. I can't even fathom this one of a doctor saying, okay, and again, we don't know what happened. I'm sure obviously he does, of at least hopefully of what caused it and everything. And was it 1,000,000 to 1 shot? Was it 1,000,000,000 to 1 shot? But regardless, a doctor and doctors have cleared him to go back on the field. And I imagine just that mental part of saying, my God, do I want to take this chance again, had to be weighing heavily on him. And I'm glad he got that first hit out of the way, but it was in practice. So we need to see when it's all full go by both teams in a game.
He said he'd be lying if he said it didn't cross his mind out there, but that's a process, like you said, mentally he's going to have to approach each and every day, and we wish him well in that. We're all rooting for him. I know that much. Dad, let's get to the third. The Coin Boys are back in town. People might have seen this online the other day, but in the Reddit teachers thread, one teacher came to the congregation with a new complaint about the students in his class. A flock of freshman boys who have come in saying that their new thing is that they have now carried quarters with them at all times. Their whole personality revolves around the coins. When they were asked for some sort of icebreaker, 4 or 5 of them said some version of, I live by the coin and I die by the coin as their fact. And when one of the students was assigned an assignment by the teacher, he flipped the coin in front of the teacher to decide if he would do that. And ultimately, when it landed on tails, told the teacher he wouldn't be doing the assignment. And the teacher informed him he would be sent home and be having a call to his parents at home. Dad, I'm not going to lie. I kind of respect the Coin Boys. Like, I hope that kid didn't fold and actually do the assignment, because if you're going to stand for something, you got to actually be 10 toes down. And so if you're going to live by the coin, you better be willing to get that F by the coin. I want to make sure the Coin Boys are really out here riding.
See, this is where I'm going to get in trouble with my generation, because this sickens me. This is a joke. It's one thing to live by the coin and die by the coin, to flip a coin on whether I'm going to go see a movie or not. But to sit there in a class with a teacher who just gave out an assignment, and there were 2 people that did it. The first guy flipped the coin and it came up heads. And the teacher said, so at least he's going to do the project. Another guy, like you said, it came up tails, and he said, well, I won't be doing this. And he said, well, enjoy your 0 in the call to home. This is an embarrassment. This is an embarrassment to where we are with some of our youth in society, that they're doing this, not getting frivolous things, but in front of a teacher who's trying to teach them to talk about an assignment, to say the coins to decide whether I do it or not. I don't even want to say what my generation would be doing to people like this. These idiots. You people are idiots. Put the coin away. Thanks for joining us.
Go. Boom. Money in the bank.